We do have to talk about the crisis of guns, the failure of guns. I mean, it's true, guns don't kill people, but bullets do. And guns make it very, very easy to kill somebody. And the real cost of a gun is that you can do it without thinking. People do all the time. So the reality of the law is that people can and should have guns. It's not so bad to have a gun. It just depends on what you do with it. But the end result is all guns are about killing things. And so you have to make that decision first. And the end result of that is that we should think that over really, really careful. And choose to have non-lethal bullets. That's not against the law, it's not against the Constitution. We can sell non-lethal bullets instead of lethal ones. We can tell the police that they will use non-lethal bullets for the first 3 or 4 shots that they make. If they choose to, you have to, because a non-lethal bullet will hurt you badly. It will. It can even kill you if you are shot in the wrong place. Damage your life for forever. But it is less damaging than a lethal bullet. And it gives, another chance to somebody who maybe made a mistake, or maybe didn't deserve what they got, or certainly doesn't deserve, keep you out of prison. All valuable things. So we need to learn that the reality of guns is that if you don't have a gun, if they're not spread around society, then the few who do have a gun have all the power over you to take your life. Fear them, fear this, fear that. Believe whatever you want. The end result is like the Indians that were here first in this United States 200-300 years ago, whatever it was. They lost. They were nearly exterminated because they didn't have weapons that could compete with the weapons the Europeans brought. It's as simple as that. They didn't have the weapons that could compete with them, and so they were killed. Their land was confiscated. They were, genocide is what genocide is. And there are any number of people who want whatever you have and must be told forcibly that no, you can't. Or they will tell you, yes, I can. So whether you like them or hate them, they're here to stay. So, but we can stop, most lethal killings, or at least the majority of them, by choosing to use non-lethal bullets. It will stop somebody. You don't think so? You stand in front of it and let somebody shoot you with one. And then we'll see what you say. So anyway, the real problem is that we are facing crisis after crisis after crisis. One of the biggest ones that in this America is, as on this particular piece of information, Mexico City, a city of 22 million people, 22 million people is facing a water crisis and have been facing a water crisis, and it's only going to get worse. And they're going to end up without water, and they're going to move, and they're going to come to the United States, and 22 million people who move and who must move because there is no water for them to drink or to use are going to make a crisis out of Texas and everybody else because there's no water for them there too. And then they're going to move further north and make a crisis for them too, and for them too, and for them too, because that's what overpopulation is. And so the end result is meeting them on the border with a gun isn't going to solve anything. It's going to make them stay. But unfortunately then they have to die, or they have to go somewhere else. And of course that isn't a solution either. And of course, all of the family that they have here are going to say, that ain't fair. And of course, all the people who think that bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, just means that they're competing with you for every house, every apartment. They're competing with you for every piece of food, every piece of water, everything in this earth, because we have to. That's the price of life. You got to compete. And the more competition there is, the more strife there is, and the more people want to shoot you. So if we had at least non-lethal weapons, or non-lethal bullets for the weapons, at least there would be some degree of better. So we have a world that's filled with university-led pollution, toxic waste everywhere. Back 20 years ago, when when the internet was fairly new and a lot of things weren't so hidden, it was the EPA they had injected 1 trillion pounds of toxic waste into the earth. Here in this United States, it's everywhere. You just don't see it. Down 1,000 feet or maybe a little more, but you measure out 1,000 feet. Measure it out. Measure it out. How you can talk normally to the person at the end of that 1,000 feet. And that's how far you are away from really, really toxic poisons. And then, of course, there are the people who are charged with investigating that. And it turns out that in Chicago, for instance, one of the wells that they inject in was completely full. Charges, this is the safe level, we can do this much and that's it, and we have to stop. But of course they didn't stop, because it's got to go somewhere. And of course that means that it went somewhere, and it's still probably going somewhere. And it was supposedly full 20 years ago. And I took that information to the court, and the court just, threw it away. Because that's not what power wants to know. Power doesn't want to know that. The courts, the experts, don't want to know that. They want you to believe whatever it is they want you to believe. And because they figure they're going to leave. They figure they've stolen enough that they can just leave. So they take all they can get, and they plan to leave. They plan to immigrate. So we have an entire world facing a global water crisis, and from any of 1,000 different sources, truly from 1,000 different sources. It's everywhere. It's everything. All of the agricultural products that are used are dumped on the ground, and they say, well, it hasn't happened yet, but it sinks into the ground. And we don't know what is going to happen with all of it, but we know it sinks into the ground and it will get to the water supply, and then you can't drink it. Or it causes birth defects. Or 10,000 other things. That's the price of using it. And of course then there's all the fertilizer that's used that causes tremendous troubles in the water depositories, rivers and streams and lakes and oceans. Because they use too much, because they want what they want, and what they want is to win the game. I have the most, I did the most, look at me, I have the cleanest field, look at me. Not a thing worried in it. Of course that doesn't include the toxic waste that was dumped on. And then of course there's all the toxic waste that was produced when they produced the toxic waste, which is 10 times more. We are a nation of idiots. There's just really no other way to explain it. We're a nation of idiots. You stand aside and let them steal everything. You let them poison everything. You let them, destroy democracy. Capitalism does not exist in this nation. It hasn't existed for 50 years. Not since the universities took over over the currency of this United States and gave themselves each $1 million raise. And of course what happened with that was that the population looked and said, "We found the money, go get the money." And so the university became a cult. This is the place we want to be. Pay the price. And so, greed overtook the land and so on. But because, greed is what you want. And for all 50 years that I've been working at it, nobody cared about anything that was important. Nobody cared about anything that was important. There's a few, a tiny, tiny few. But realistically, nobody cared because they wanted what they wanted. And all I could see was, I can have a car. And of course I tell them that, you're using counterfeit money. It's not real. And they say, well, I can take this money and I can go down to the store and I can buy me a new car. And they can. Because in the end, it's not about whether the money is real or not. It's about whether the people believe in the money or not. And of course, you can't tell a believer what is true or not true because they don't care. They believe what they want to believe, and what they want to believe is whatever is true to them. That's the price of belief. They believe what they want to believe, and that's what is true. And of course, critical reality is, if you don't respect what is true, then it's not true. At least in your mind. But truth is truth, and reality is reality, and every resource that we need to survive, every resource we need to live, every resource the world needs to keep on going, every resource that the children need to do anything with their lives is all being destroyed. So, and media hides that well. They are the people who are charged with, keeping you from understanding what is true, keeping you from understanding what the evidence of what our truth is away from you. There's very, very little of truth or reality in media. It's all propaganda. And the propaganda is that the university is God. Don't listen to anything else. The university is God. Or more correctly, the pyramid of university expertise is God. So a tiny few decide everything. That's literal, and that's true. A tiny few choose to make the rest believe everything that they believe. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. All that matters is, as religion does, we have a book. The book is right. The book can't be wrong. We have a book. Books, that's what we have. You can't argue with the book. The book is right. The book is God. You can't argue with the book. But of course, the book can be wrong. Like religion, all the words in the book, doesn't matter what language it is, all the words in the book were written by men. And there's not a man among us that was perfect or true to everything or whatever it is. It doesn't matter because it's a language of men which is not perfect. It's words of men which is not perfect. It's, the thoughts and memories and vision and whatever you want to believe of men. It's not perfect. Nothing in it is perfect. Nothing is perfect because it is a part of men and their language and their memories and their interpretation and their everything. Which means that the Bible or whatever it is, it's not perfect. And it's not, well, let's just leave that alone. But understand this, that our world is in crisis. Even if you don't believe it, even if you haven't noticed it, even if you don't want to believe it, our world is still in crisis because we are so many people. Our world has changed. There are so many people that 8.2 billion people is hand in hand, well, actually 1 yardstick apart, 1 meter apart, center of your chest, center of their chest, 3 inches over a yardstick, that far apart. We're still 21 lines of humanity that go to the moon and back, or it's, I think it's 205 trips around the equator, 1 meter apart. 1 meter apart. And I don't mean center to center. 1 meter, that's half you and half them included. 205 times around the equator, standing on the water. You can't escape that. You can't escape the sewage they create. You can't escape the water they need. You can't escape the impact on habitat. That is the cost of it. You can't escape the resources that are lost. You can't escape any of it, because it is a fact. Recognize that.